Hello, guys. Welcome back to Pods and Beyond, a formal and informal conversation about people, careers, and life. Today, with me, I have two of my very old friends who moved to Canada to pursue their dream of becoming data scientists. We have Ali Salman, who is a data scientist at Sencor, and we have Murad Ali, who is a data scientist at Wheaton Group. How are you guys? How cold is it there?
Good, we're doing good. Not too cold. It's 2 degrees, which is quite warm here.
Yeah,
Very
it's
warm.
mostly it's mostly sunny summer weather because we're coming from like a minus 35, minus 40 December, so this feels pretty good.
Wow. A
Quite.
dream for us, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
So you
And it's
guys did CS from FAST, from which I remember back in Karachi. How did you transition from CS in FAST to choosing the most famous field right now? How was the process? Let's start with Murad on that.
Sure. So I think we got introduced to AI and machine learning in third year of FAST. And uh, surprisingly, we really liked the subjects, and like everyone in our class like struggled with it. But like for some reason, like we really enjoyed doing those projects in machine learning. And when it came to doing our final year project, we also selected machine learning for that. We got introduced to this data set by one of our teachers. Like if Fastians are listening, so they would know, like Sir Rafi, shout out to him. So yeah, we got introduced to this data set. We worked on, and then we did our final year project. So yeah, but unfortunately, we couldn't find like much jobs to work with. But luckily for us, the CEO of Next Degree, Imran Bhai, visited us in our final year projects exhibition. So he actually invited us to his company and just like gave us an introduction about like what they are trying to do, and got our thoughts on what our ideas are on those. And yeah, that's how we actually got the job there and started working in data science. Ali, I think at the time like worked with them before, but he was not planning to join them. But later on, like hamari baat hui, and then uh, we told him कि like हमारी बात हुई and we are actually joining this company for data. Then he contacted them and said, okay, तुम लोग data पे काम कर रहे हो, so I also want to join. So I guess that's how it started.
Okay. And you
Yeah.
guys worked there for how many years? What was the procedure? I mean, how did you like the experience, your first experience of working in data in a Pakistani company back then when it was not so famous and not a lot of people were working on it? How was it?
So yeah, so they were also very new to data science. So there were a lot of challenges, I would say. Uh, Again, like they were primarily a software company. So again, like a lot of their projects were software based. So they were like trying to tackle all the projects in the same manner as like a software engineering cycle. So we had a few challenges, but also we got to learn a lot because like it was a very new thing for them, right? So everything we were building was from scratch. So we got an exposure in a company where we are actually like part of like every project.
Pioneers of it.
Yeah, which was quite a rare and like very valuable experience for us, I guess.
Okay. And you both did the process of going to Canada together. Ali, tell me, how was the experience living there? I think you were roommates there as well. How did you cope up with living alone? How did you cope up with living together? And when you were moving there, did you guys think that you were moving there specifically for being a data scientist, or you just wanted to go to Canada and then explore the options of what you guys will do your masters or do your studies in?
Yeah. So I'll be honest. See, a lot of students from Pakistan right now, when they graduate, they work for a few years. They do have this tendency to move abroad, right? This is just how it is right now in our country. It's a sad situation, but it's the reality. So for us, it was yeah, it was important to do a master's. We were looking for higher education, but at the same time, our goal was also to not do it in Pakistan, and maybe try to move somewhere that we would probably like to live all of our life, right? And that is the main reason why we chose Canada, because it offered us both the things. So we were offered good education, as well as an option to, if we want, we could probably settle down there, we could live our life there. So that's why we chose Canada. The process for applying and getting in, I would say it was fairly easy at that time. Like, we didn't have like too many challenges in the process, because all we did was we went online, we searched for schools, and applied. Just posted our documents and everything, and yeah, obviously you have to give like some tests like IELTS and everything, but generally it's a very straightforward process. And we got in, we got the admission, we applied for visa, and there were not like, I would say, too many hiccups in that. Pretty straightforward. However, what I've heard now from a lot of other students that have come in after us, and even right now as well, there is a little bit more complication in the process right now. I cannot pinpoint where, but that's what I've heard. But generally, it's not too much of a problem. The main challenge was obviously when we came here and started living here, because and this is the difference that we noticed between us and a lot of friends that we have uh, here. We are not trained to live alone generally in Pakistan.
Yeah, true.
Our culture is such that we live with family. Like, always we live with family. When we go for education, like when we were doing our bachelor's, we were still living with family. We had a lot of people coming from interior Sindh to fast, who used to live in hostels and used to live as paying guests, and all these sorts of arrangement, right? But we never experienced it. So for us to move was a bit challenging, because it was a big transition. Like, not only that we were away from family, basically we were away from everything that we have experienced so far in life. We were just not in the same country. So yeah, it was a little bit challenging at first, but it teaches you a lot, to be independent, to live in a way where you really not depend on someone else for anything, whether it's finance, whether it's just doing household chores, um, everything. So you learn a lot how to live your life.
Okay, and but the experience for both of you was really challenging, or one of you like really felt that you have found the freedom of
Mm.
your life? Because when I went to
I think
Tanzania for like the project, the first 1 year I was like, okay, that's the freedom of the life. You are gonna enjoy it so much, and then after 1 year and after all the good things went out of the window, that's when you feel that okay, you're away from the family. So both of you had the same kind of experience, or one of you actually started enjoying it before and then found it, or how was your experience, Murad?
Yeah, I think pretty much like I also felt the same thing, but I think for Ali it was a bit more because like he went there before me and I actually went later on. Got settled and everything. He had a place like, and I had to join him like in a same place, right? So for me, I think the first few months of transition was quite easy. Like I didn't have to like look for a place. I didn't have to uh, figure out like how to do groceries and stuff, right? So he had all those things figured out by the time I went in. So yeah,
You had a
in
good
that
face to see. You had a familiar face to see when you went there.
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, in that sense easier, but like family part and like a big culture, the cultural shock we get, like that that was the part that I felt the most. But
Okay.
again, like after some time, like I think I pretty much got used to it after a while, but it took time. Yeah.
Okay. And when you guys were moving, did you guys think that you're going there specifically for data sciences, or you had this in mind that okay, we are gonna go and see on which particular field do we want to make our career forward? Because you had seen data a bit in your previous company where you guys working, but you also would have seen a lot of different things in the same company. So were you guys, was your mind made up, or did you guys come here and research more and then decide on what do you want for your career?
So yeah, I think I remember like we specifically looking for data science specialties in the universities, but at the time, by the time we were of the specialized program that offered by most of the universities, the deadline was passed. So I think we joined SFU. SFU had a very good program in machine learning and big data. But I think what we when we were applying, the deadline for those things were also passed. So what we did was like we applied for general computing science masters, but then later on we took courses to develop our knowledge in machine learning, computer vision, and things like that.
Okay. So for our
Yeah.
students, what is data sciences? What is material learning and AI? Starting with Ali, what is it the field about? If you can break it down into the simplest of terms.
Just just some fancy words, to be honest. It's it's a hot field right now. But
Definitely, it's a very hot field right
what
now. Everybody's talking about it. Yes.
yeah, and usually what happens is, so for a software developer, it um we do development as well, right? It's not like if you're data scientist and not software developers, that means we don't do development. There is a lot of work in this field, which is actual development, actual programming. The only difference is the kind of things you program is a bit different. In a software development environment, you are building systems that provides you certain type of features, whatever are the requirements, and you're basically building that, whatever tech you are using, whatever language you're using, you're essentially building a system that is to provide you a particular type of support service, whatever you can say. Data science is also a system. The only thing is that the goal for these type of projects is a little bit different. It's more of you would say models or mathematical models or scientific models that provide you a prescriptive or predictive power, right? Using whatever data you have, whatever business context you're working in, and whatever your problem is, based on that you build systems which have a power to forecast, let's say, future, to predict certain things that would help you optimize your business or any operation for that matter. And um, and that this is what I'm talking about, particularly data science, in a way that where you have data problems. There is a whole thing of AI, which also deals with things like robotics, and machines. So that is also part of a similar sort of field, but it's also a lot different, because robotics goes into a very different dimension than just working with data and building models out of it. So yeah, that's how that's pretty much what we work in.
And what are the different branches for the students on which you can study after you? Okay, so you have decided that you want to do data science. Are there different branches they can master into, or is it about the industries on how it differ? Anyone can take this up.
Yeah. So I think like we also explored a lot of branches after coming here. So in Pakistan, we didn't know much about like what other industries in which we can use learning in intelligence, right? So I think like the few of the most uh, talked about, or the fields in which like the most work is done is there's computer vision, which deals with images and videos and basically uh, uh, trying to infer or trying to like basically identify or do things with images. There is another branch which is NLP, which deals with natural language speeches and stuff, speech and text and everything. The branch which is again like recently gotten a lot of hype, which is bioinformatics, which deals with a lot of genome data and a lot of application of data science in medical uh, field. And there's like data science, which is again like a part of it in a way, or you can say like machine learning is part of it. It's like reverse it, right? So yeah, I think these are a few of the major fields that we have identified. The most work right now has been done. I don't know if Ali wants to add something to it.
So you have something to add, Ali?
No, no, that that pretty much covers it.
Or
Yeah,
if you
this
guys
this
can
is what we.
explain it for the audience as well about what's the different branches, a little bit about the different branches which you guys are talking about, so that the audience has in mind when they are choosing data scientists as a field as well, on what different things can they do in the particular field.
So these branches, they're more like you would say specialties uh, that you can go for. You're still building pretty much building models with all of these fields. It's just that what type of problems that you're working with is what defines the branch that we say. So if we are having a lot of text data and we're trying to do something with that, or just speech data, that sort of automatically goes into that natural language category. If we are working with a computer vision based problem in a way that we have images or video that we are trying to extract some information out of, or we are trying to determine any kind of you would have seen stuff like there is a picture, and they generate auto descriptions for it depending on what's being shown in the picture. So that's sort of a machine learning intelligence, right? That the machine is identifying certain things in a picture, and then based on that it's producing a caption or a description which matches what is seen in the picture, just like a normal human would do, right? So this automatically goes into the computer vision side, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to make your machine see what you see in a picture, right?
Okay.
And so this becomes a computer vision problem. Then there is I would say a traditional data science which deals with a lot of just numerical data, or even if we have some other type of data, we try to convert it to a numerical data so that we can model it mathematically, um, for predictive power or anything. So yeah, it's now it depends. I've seen people who pick a branch that, I want to specialize in computer vision. This is just what I want to do. And what they would do is they would work in that field. They would learn about that field. So uh, if you ever get in contact with them, you would notice that they have a lot of knowledge depth in computer vision algorithms, whatever models they build, how they build it, whatever technologies are they using. They would have a lot of in-depth knowledge about that, and maybe not about the other kind of machine learning models. Because very commonly, if you start working a lot with a certain type of problems, you get very good at that, but maybe you do miss out on the other things. But then there are some people who don't have a preference, and they are data scientists in general, and they could they like to work on any kind of problem that's in front of them. And they would do and they would learn as they go. So for example, for me, I never studied computer vision in any of my courses, right? But my first job that I got here as a machine learning developer was completely in computer vision. So I learned everything that I had to learn on the job. The thing is that the essentials of data science, of modeling, and what you need to do, how computer models are built, are pretty much the same. There is a layer on top of that which changes with different problems, how you process data. Because essentially computer understands numbers. Even when you're showing it a picture or a video, it translates it to numeric data. But it's just about what kind of algorithms you choose to process that numerical data. That is what
Yeah.
changes the branches, essentially. you know so people could do anything, whatever. And when they start doing actual projects, they would lean on to something, because they would find themselves interested in one thing more than the other. And that's where they could decide what type of work they want to do. Data science for now, I won't say there is any field which is like leaps and bounds above the other one, that I could suggest that maybe try to go into computer vision because that's the hottest thing right now, or go into NLP. Everything is working on a very similar level, and a very major level right now. So people, if they are interested in anything, they could basically pursue it.
Data science or data analysis or data in general is about the why of things. Why would something happen? Why is it performing in a way that it's performing? Did you guys were you guys always this curious, और वो जो कीड़ा होता है ना कि ये ऐसे क्यों है या ये वैसे क्यों है, ये हमेशा से था या ये जो है वो फील्ड में आने के बाद हुआ है? Anyone?
अब हमेशा से था, इस किस्म का तो कोई कीड़ा नहीं था कि ये क्यों है वो क्यों है, बट या there was an interest. um, you know me very well from college days, right? Anything which is numeric used to interest me. uh, Mathematics was my thing, so naturally कंप्यूटर साइंस में जब मैंने इस चीज की एप्लीकेशन देखी तो मैं ऑटोमेटिकली उससे जो है वो इंटरेस्टेड था, राइट? आई वांटेड टू गो देयर. So it's not really about trying to know why something is happening. It's more about it's interesting to work on problems where you can explain a lot of stuff and you can predict a lot of stuff. It's, I would say, it's not only about why something is happening. It's actually about what is going to happen, right? And that's an interesting part because it's just something that gives you a kick, you know, that doing this stuff. And when you see that whatever you are forecasting or predicting or prescribing in terms of modeling, and when it comes to life and you actually see value being gained from it, that's an amazing feeling that, you know, you've built something which is actually creating value. So yeah, my interest particularly was more towards numbers and stats and math, and that's why I got into it. um, because I do remember this, that I was very confused when I was in my undergrad, that I was taking computing science, but I didn't know what to do. And this only gave me hope because I was like, okay, I found a dimension within this computer science that's actually my thing. That is what I would want to do. And that's where I started focusing completely on this field, and basically just left computer science behind altogether. So yeah, this is how it worked out for me. I think if I was not in computer science, I would have gotten into something that was similar, but maybe through a different route. But yeah, so it was just that interest in I would say math always.
Okay. Murad, were you curious? How did you get here?
For me, when I was like trying to select a job, it just looked like a more attractive option to me at the time because just looking at the problems they were like trying to solve all over the world, right? So yeah, those were the problems. I thought like I couldn't even think like it can be done, right? So for example, the FYP that we did was about predicting if a person is going to move his left hand or a right hand before he actually does it. So things like
Wow.
that, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, so cool projects like that that made my interest in that. uh, Again, like didn't know like much about the field, just knew that it's basically like uh, something which is like globally people are doing this, people are like people are doing and people are interested in doing this, right? So very new field, just looked like a very attractive option. And when I got the opportunity at next degree, so it was a no-brainer for me, like just to join this like very new field which is attractive and like trying to solve problems I couldn't even think of, like this could be done, right? So yeah, that's how I got interested in the field.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is the difference right now, because we when we were getting into this field, we didn't have any knowledge about this. Right
Yeah,
now you would see a lot of people talking about data science, what exactly it is, what type of problems they are solving. So you have a lot of awareness and information of what this field is doing. At our time, even none of our teachers basically told us that what
Knew
this
much
field is
about it.
about. It was more
Yeah.
like we saw the courses, and just on a hunch that, okay, this course seems interesting and we'll go into it. And we basically explored it on our own, that okay, what this whole thing is, right? And we got interested and we got into it. But now the good part is that there is so much awareness, and there is so
yeah,
much a trend of this field, that people know about it a lot. And because they know about it so much, the type of problems that are being solved, what this field is all about, they can make a very early decision to go into that, and that could help them a lot growing into their career, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So this question is from both of you. There's a tons of discussion about data being used without the consent of the audience. The data which you guys are working on specifically. There are concerns about the security of it, of the managing and analyzing and everything. How does that affect your job and your everyday work life?
Personally, for me, it doesn't matter, because the type of work that I'm doing, and the company that I'm in, there is no problem of personal data being used in a way that it should not be, or if you don't have consent or anything like that. It's more like a commercial data, more company generated data of their business that we are using, or data that's publicly available that we are using. So uh, this ethical side of data science, it's not affecting me personally, I would say, as of now, because my job is not like that. But yeah, there is a problem that is happening within this field, on this ethical level a lot. We have seen different companies going into lawsuits in the past, where they have to explain what they did and why they did it. Um, so so yeah, there is this thing, and I think they try to manipulate it in a way that, when you use their technology, they ask you for consents, which we usually don't read, but we just agree to it because we want to use the apps, or whatever it is. Now, if you want to look at it legally, if they have given you that information and they have asked you for consent and you have provided the consent, then legally it's fine. But whether it's ethical or not is a debate. I could say that, I already told you this, and then you agreed to it. But the question is whether I should have even asked, right? Or whether doing, because everyone knows nobody reads these things. A lot of users who are using these apps
Yeah.
don't bother reading all the privacy documents and things like that. So you are essentially, I would say, you're taking advantage of that fact, and you're getting your way out of it, in a way. And so whether that's ethical or not, legally, yeah, obviously you can prove that we are fine, whatever we have done. But whether it's ethical or not, and it's a big debate in data science as to,
Yeah.
not even like just using this data, but also building, or developing programs, or systems that could be unethical, um, in their purpose. There is this whole debate about the robotics side, that, to what extent should we take it, you know because we have seen up until now, the way the technology is evolving, you can basically go anywhere with it, right? Now we are seeing this metaverse coming up, right? And trying to make everything virtual. It's progress, and it's going to keep happening. The question is, where do you think, should there be a stopping point, first of all? And if yes, then where is that stopping point? Where do we say that, this is enough, and we don't want to go further, beyond from this? Although it doesn't seem like it would happen ever, because just the way the industry is, it's just going to keep going. But yeah, it is a big question.
Yeah. I think basically it's a very new field, right? So there is not much regulation around like the type of work that's been done, because it's like there's literally new work being done every day. And it's really hard for the governments to keep up with like the progress and like basically make regulations around it. For example, autonomous vehicles, right? The software is ready, everything is ready, but the legal part of it, the regulations, like what the liability is and things like that, that's the part which is lacking behind, right? So I think, yeah, a lot of people take advantage of that there's not proper regulations around that, and just basically exploit that. uh, Having said that, there are some regulations. I can talk about myself. The company I'm working in, since it's a financial company, so we do work with a lot of like money laundering stuff, and we also do work with a lot of risk assessments of loans and stuff, right? So there is a part in which we do have to explain ourselves in case like we, for example, if you are building a model to assess a risk, right, regarding a loan, that this loan would be granted to someone or not. So there is a big part of explainability. So you should be, so your model should be, okay, sure, it should be complex and stuff, but again, like it should not be so complex that you are not able to explain why you are rejecting a loan, right? So that part of it, it's very illegal for you to develop a model in at least financial space that you cannot explain out of. So yeah, that's a part. Like I think like nowadays, like there are new regulations coming out like literally every day regarding stuff, because they're finding out new stuff and like people are reporting on it. uh, so yeah, it's happening, but it's not keeping up with the pace of how the overall machine learning and AI is evolving. So I think that's a big part of it.
And then sometimes it also comes to your personal behavior, because a lot of time you would work with data, like Murad said, when he's working in a credit union and he's doing all this risk assessment, he would have a lot of personal information about clients as well that he would be able to see. That's just part of the job. I worked in an insurance company and I used to have that data about people as well, who have purchased the insurance plans, and the premiums that they are paying, or whatever it is, the claims that they are making. These are all very personal informations to people. But as part of our job, we are looking at it, right? But then it's our responsibility, and companies do this whole privacy management, I would say, courses, or they do this training where they tell us, what type of information can we disclose, or what type of information we cannot disclose, or how do we handle this information, because it's a personal information of people. um, it is meant to be used in our system in a particular way. There are restrictions on it, what we can or cannot do with it, and then how we are also responsible in a personal way. Like, I could not go to Murad and tell him about a particular person that I've seen the data for. That's not ethical, right? So how you contain that information's confidentiality within yourself as well. So there are trainings for it that are done. They would explain you, like, in very much detail as to what um, is possible, what is doable, and what is like completely out of the question in terms of using the data.
Okay, so how different is the interview process in Canada as compared to Pakistan?
Yeah, so it like really changes with the company, right? So every company, I think, like for especially for data science, have their own process because they have like a completely different data set to work with. They have a completely different problem to solve, right? So yeah, it changes, but like it usually evolves around. There are a few interviews in which like they judge your general knowledge about how you know data science, uh, how well you can work with data sets, how well you know about the modelings, how well you know about basically the predictive power, and basically how well do you interpret the predictions and things like that, right? So another part I think also here is very common is they usually build up some kind of data set that they give you to work with for assessment. So take home problems, right? So which is usually something very very close to what they would be working with in real life. Uh, so they make a dummy data out of it, and then they give you uh, for assessment, right? And then they
Yeah.
judge you how well you work on it, and how well basically uh, you can infer the data, and how well you can make predictions out of things like that. But again, like it's not common across the companies. So every company, some companies would have the assessment as, some companies like would take like 2 interviews, 3 interviews, at times like 5 interviews. So yeah, it depends on the company, what type of problem they are trying to solve. Yeah.
Assessments are very common here, by the way. A lot of
Yeah.
companies do give assessments. um, this is something that we we didn't see when we interviewed. um, the assessment was done more, I think in Pakistan we experienced it more when we were in university, when the companies used to come to campus for jobs. They would give us like a test that
Yeah.
everybody was solving, and
Those were basically
and
more than assessment. Like they were not take
yeah,
home.
So
Very
Yeah,
good
they will
that
not
has
take a hell
changed
that.
now. I think every company does give assessments here.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So
that has become a normal practice that you have to either do
mhm,
the assessment before all the interview starts, or the assessment comes after you are, let's say, a bit cleared on first and second HR
yeah.
interviews and everything.
And there are like assessments on different levels, right? Like you said. So if they are doing like an early assessment where you don't where no one has ever met this person that they're trying to hire, right? It's like the very first step of the process. If they give you an assessment at that time, more often than not, it would be an automated assessment. It would be on some sort of a tool where you have to log in and you have to do, because that would generate results for them automatically. Obviously, when you're putting it out in the very first stage, then you have a lot of candidates to work for, and nobody has time to actually personally verify what they've done. So they use these automated tools for filtering.
Yeah,
So that is more like a filtration process, that this is our threshold for this assessment, and anybody who clears it would only be considered for the next round. But if you have given one or two rounds of interviews and then they give you an assessment, then that assessment is more, I would say, specific to certain parts of the job, and you build a whole solution to it, you submit it, and they would actually personally review your solutions and whatever you have written in a report, or anything like that, because then they are working with like a small set of candidates, and they could do that, and that would give them much more confidence in the ability of the candidate, rather than just having a discussion. So yeah, the assessment is a very common
And
thing we
usually,
see.
there is a follow-up interview after the assessment in which they
Yeah.
actually go deeper into the assessment and actually ask you questions regarding the assessment.
if you
So
have
that's
done it
again,
yourself or not yet.
that's the part. Also, like they go even deeper. Like for example, usually what I have experienced is like they would ask us to solve a problem, and obviously you have limited time, right? So, interview they would ask you about like, okay, so if you had more time, how would you solve it, right? Or how would you build on top of it, and what would you do in the future? So they actually get an idea of like how creatively thinking you are, and yeah, so basically just to get an idea of, it's not just like you cannot just solve a given problem, but you can also think on your own to identify new problems, right? And just to not just identifying those problems, and like how would you go about solving those identified problems.
and and also like thinking a bit out of the box, because they have provided you some data, but in actual jobs we see that we can ask for data. If we
Yeah,
feel that this problem could be better solved if we have this extra data to attach to it, right? Like, let's say if there is a problem where we can attach the weather data to it. Now, weather data is not something that a company generates. Weather data
yeah,
is weather data, but we think that for this business context, weather data could be important. So we would ask them that, if we can get weather data attached to this data, maybe we could work with it better, right? So this is also something that's the part of the job, and they try to see it in the interviews, that they've given you a data set and they've given you a purpose, that this is what we're trying to solve. But then you can give them advices over, if we I think if we can attach maybe this particular data to it, we would be able to generate more value from it. So that's also something that they're looking for, that you're not confined into what you have, and you can
yeah,
think about possibilities, that what other things you can get your hands on, which would help you solve the problem better. So it's this whole space of creative thinking as to how you deal with problems. And this is all like core data science based thing. There are companies that do very generic coding interviews as well for a data scientist, because they do know that you would have to program. So sometimes they would just give you coding problems to solve. It could be a
yeah.
live coding session as well. So yeah, that happens.
Okay. Okay, coming to our
By
last
the way,
question.
one thing I need to add to it. So here in Canada, we have noticed that you have a behavioral interview, right? uh, and that is very important here. At least here, I've seen there is a any company you go to, you've cleared all your technical rounds, everything, you would have a behavioral interview where they would ask questions about your conduct in a professional environment. You know how how you would be with your teammates, and they would give you these hypothetical situations as to, if something like this happens on your job, how you would deal with it. If you have a conflict with your teammate, what would you do?
First,
So they're trying to see whether you can. Yeah, it's the worst kind of interview, that's correct, but it is considered to be very, very important here. And what they call it is a cultural fit interview, that they're trying to assess the candidate whether he would be able to fit into the culture of the company, and be good there. Because it's a very big issue for them here, if the person cannot work within the team that they have, or might cause conflict, or anything like that. So that's a very important part. um, it doesn't matter um, if you're amazingly intelligent and you know everything about the field, but if they find you not culturally fit, they would not select you. So
yeah,
it's a very, very important part of interview.
Okay. Coming back to our last question, data is very cool right now, and the field data science is for the cool kids. If you are a data scientist, you are considered very cool, you're considered very hip, you're considered someone who is doing something which is very
Mm,
on top right now, and something not a lot of people are doing. And therefore, a lot of people are considering doing it because that's something, you don't know a lot about it. So it's not the fear of unknown, but it's the excitement of the unknown. What do you think, from your own experience, what do you think are the skills and the interest groups a person should have to conquer the field? What important things are there which they should be concerned about, or they should be very excited about in their life, which will help them in the field, and which they should definitely have to actually survive in the field as well?
um, okay,
mm,
I don't think I don't think it's the cool kids that do it. It's the
yeah.
nerd people who do it. And uh, I think
You
people have
have
a
no
lot of
clue. All
interest.
the kids are legit being like, we want to be the data scientist because the discussions
Yeah,
about data
yeah,
is so
and
cool.
and
Yeah,
And data
and the
scientist
and the
is one of
reason,
the biggest, like the
I think
highest paid
movie
salaries as well and everything.
that is the reason. That is the reason. It's a good paying job.
also,
That's why people want to do it. It's not that the job is very cool. To be honest, it is a very nerdy kind of job, right? But yeah, it pays good, and that's why people are very, very interested in it.
also
Uh,
the movie glamorize that right part of it, but it's not actually like that how they show in the movies. Like basically, you are building robots, and like these robots are doing all kind of cool stuff, and that's not the case, right? Most of the time, you're just like looking at the screen with numbers, so nothing cool about that, right? So yeah, so that
yeah,
you have to be.
I still do all my house chores by myself. I don't have a robot to do it. So, if it was that easy, and if that's how it was, then we won't be complaining about living alone here. So, so yeah, it's a lot different than what it's shown as. And in terms of the skills, or the interest that you talked about, that a person should have if they want to pursue this field, I think it is a field that requires a lot of, I would say, intelligence um, in a more numbers way, or problem solving approaches, logic problem solving approaches. Those type of skills do come in handy, I would say. So any person who's interested in those type of things, solving puzzles, but puzzles which are more logical, right? Or mathematical intelligence, you would say. Somebody who's really interested in stats, good with numbers, these type of people would find it very easy to get into this, because they would have the basis of understanding whatever is going on, and they would catch up very well. That is not to say that if a person doesn't have that skill to that level, they cannot do it. Obviously, you can always learn on the trade. You can always get into it, and you can get a hang of it. So yeah, pretty much anybody could do it, if they pursue it in the right way. They try to educate themselves about what it is. They educate themselves about the technicalities of it. Anybody can do it. But yeah, definitely having those sort of skills would really help you flourish in a field like this.
Yeah. I think I'll add on top of it. You also have to be a little bit creative in terms of how you solve the
Yeah.
problems, and also like you have to be observant of the environment, like what things you can actually use from the things that are available on the internet, right? Not just like your data, things that you may not think could be related to directly related to your problem that you're solving, uh, but might actually help you improve on what you have built, right? So you have to be a bit creative, number one, and then also you also need to be a bit more observant of like how can I use this information that I'm seeing, right? So that's another part of it.
Great, great. Thank you so much, guys. We have come towards the end of a very, very informative, especially for me, coming from a very, very non-data or CS field, very informative discussion. I think the people who would be listening to you would definitely learn a lot of things about data sciences and living in Canada and interviewing in Canada and everything. Thank you so much for taking out your time on a weekday, sorry, weekend. Waking up so early on a Sunday morning. Thank you so much. Really nice talking to you after so long and really nice learning. Very happy that you both are doing so great. And I hope you both get a robot soon in your house so that you're not so lonely in Canada. Hope to visit you guys soon. Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.